Welcome to Casa de Confidence
A podcast for women
and some cool dudes.
going in the direction of their dreams and the confidence it takes to reach them. I'm your host, Julie DeLucca-Collins.
And your sidekick, handsome hot husband. That again.
I am a dreamer, a traveler, a missionary, and risk taker. I am a lover of books, activist, philanthropist, and most of all, we are a supporter of people and their dreams. If you stumble into the casa for the first time, welcome. If you've been here before, we're so glad you're back. Grab your drink of choice, settle in, and make yourself at home. Have you ever wondered what you can do to help your mindset? And as an entrepreneur, I know that a lot of times I have to have little notes to myself and read the right things and really, again, feed my brain things that remind me the power of my mindset in the things that I do. But there is a lot of power when it comes to communication and language. And our guest today definitely knows this. She has created powerful, intelligent fashion. And of course, she's going to talk a little bit about that because her personal journey with elevating her mindset and overcoming limitations influenced the transition from being someone that was a clinician as a speech language pathologist to a fashion entrepreneur. And she loves, excuse me, sharing how the power of language can impact every person. So let's welcome to the show, Kimberly Wilkerson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Julie. It is delightful to be here.
So, speech pathologist and now fashion entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. People see it from kind of the outsider perspective, but as someone that is in the entrepreneur world and understands the power of our mind, the power of what we think and what we believe, I see that there isn't that much of a stretch, but for individuals that are listening and maybe want to know how you got here, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Thank you. So it's always fun to make connections, unlikely connections, even, right? I mean, I think that's how a lot of innovation happens is
Yeah.
you look at things just slightly different. So with me, I always loved science, and I actually was one of the weird kids who liked public speaking. Whatever.
Me too. I was a weird kid.
Yeah. So I certainly understood, even at a younger age, the power of words, the power of being able to share words and make an impact. And as
Yeah.
I determined to go on to further schooling to become a speech language pathologist, I at that time had a desire to start a fashion company. And I didn't even know why. I really
Okay.
didn't. I didn't grow up as a girl who wore pink. I was
Mhm.
honestly more of a tomboy. Right now, I love pink, but I grew up again looking at science in way of goals and aspirations, and so it was all surprising to me that I wanted this fashion company. At the same time, I had done a few things I think that prepared me for that.
Mhm.
And so sitting in graduate school, I would doodle notes in my margins of designs. The notes weren't very good because art is not one of my strengths. I'm not a great artist.
Yeah, that's
However,
me as well.
yeah, yeah. But I thought, you know what? One day I think I really want to do this. But I also knew I wanted to become a speech pathologist. And so I pursued that route for years and years, acquiring the acumen that I needed as a clinician in both hospital settings as well as school settings and other clinical settings. On the side, I was doing a little bit here and there with fashion. I was studying texture and color and design. I actually took some art lessons to try to get a little bit better at getting what was
Hmm.
in my mind onto paper, although I used words a whole lot as I to explain what I was trying to draw. And then there came the opportunity just back in 2021 where I determined that I needed to move forward in launching this company. It seemed like the right timing. I had done some other business ventures prior to that I feel laid a foundation, but in way of what I wanted to do with fashion, I felt it was the right time. And I had the opportunity actually to go down to the US Virgin Islands and be a speech pathologist, which I was excited about because I like to scuba dive and snorkel and I love the tropics. However, I also knew that if I did that, it would be great, but the trajectory of my life would be changed. And I just felt to move forward despite everything that was happening in the world with COVID
Mhm.
and increased production costs, because that certainly happened. I thought, you've got to take this leap. So as I started brainstorming, because at that point, I did not know how I was going to merge. I mean, I had lots of different designs and notes from
Mhm.
years, but I did not know that until I started saying, hey, what do I want to do? And looking back at my notes, I'm like, there's so much language here. Yes, there's words because I'm trying to explain what I wrote. But when I would doodle, it would be all of these positive words or statements that I would
Mhm.
draw around pictures, etc. So I determined, because I didn't see it in the market, I want to take my expertise in communication and the neuroscience and the positive psychology data that surrounds that and
Yeah,
actually use that to do something that is going to benefit people in the industry of and the platform of fashion. And so that's how Token Clothing Company was born, essentially.
amazing, amazing. And I have to say, I like a little bit of what you said, right? You had this journey. You there were a lot of different crossroads, and I think that for most of us, right, there's one choice, one thing that we kind of say, I'm going to go this way for now. And that really is defining in what we're doing. And for you, again, there were so many things you were putting in place to be able to prepare you to do what you're doing now, but also you decided to, take this path as opposed to that one. And what I love about the work that you're doing is that it continues to be very impactful for individuals. As a speech pathologist, I know that some of the work that you do is you're helping individuals that have problems communicating build confidence and communicate more confidently. I have
Right.
a niece that has had worked with a speech pathologist from a young age, and I know what a great difference it has made for her. And now you're helping individuals that maybe have problems, or I wouldn't say problems, but challenges in telling themselves the right language to feel more confident. You're giving them a tool that can enable them to not only say that to themselves, but grow in their confidence and also self love and compassion, which a lot of times as women, we lack a lot of.
We do. And Julie, the interesting thing with that is that there's a lot of neuroscience research to
Mhm.
support those very terms: self love, self compassion, self acceptance, self forgiveness. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, we would have looked at that and kind of just brushed it aside as, oh, those are just feel good statements.
Mhm.
However, we now have the science to say, if you want to improve these things, we have to improve the speech, the self talk
Mhm.
that is in us. And we can. And we see
Mhm.
the results. We can increase that self confidence and that self love and that self compassion, which also means as we become a person who's more loving to ourselves and compassionate to ourselves, we're able then to be more loving and compassionate to others. I really believe that.
Agree.
Right. And again, the science will support how the communication on the inside certainly transforms the communication in our interactions with others. And so being intentional with our
Mhm.
language on a daily basis, even hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, depending upon that
Yeah.
situation, that will impact what's happening here in our brain, right?
Mhm.
It simply does. And what happens in our brain impacts our entire body and thus our entire system. And
Yeah.
the wonderful thing is that we have choice. We can choose not just what we're saying, but also
Mhm.
what we're listening to, because
Agreed.
language around us also has impact physiologically on what's happening at the level of the brain.
Yeah. When I launched my business, and again, I've had for a long time. I've been in this personal development quest for myself,
Sure.
and I started to journal. Then I started to really use language, and I had a coach in particular. She taught me one thing, and I use that with my clients a lot, and that's there's 12 words that you try. And try is one of the words you avoid, right? Try, I can't, I won't, shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's hard because these type of words are the ones that are training our brains to, oh, I'm going to try. Well, no, you're not. Or it's, I wish I could, or it's very hard. Yeah, your brain's going to shut down when you're telling yourself that something is hard. But if you're telling yourself the right thing, like, well, it's a challenge, right? And this is and I remember when I started working with this coach, I started to implement this in my job with my team, and they hated me because I could not say, well, it's very hard that we're going to do that. No, it's not hard. It's a challenge. But that was our most profitable year to date. And then, of course, we became more profitable as a company. But I really equate that to allowing us as a team to start to explore different ways of doing things as opposed to just hitting a wall and saying, okay, we can't do that. But really setting our minds like that little computer that we all have to try to find the right answers and being willing to fail, right? It's a challenge. Well, we're not going to get it the first time around. We're going to
Right.
figure out ways of not doing it so that we can figure out ways of doing it.
Mhm. Right, and just that shift, I mean, you just gave a perfect example of the shift of mindset. We use that language, then how we feel and thus
Mhm.
how we act shifts as well. And so
Yeah.
being able to shift that mindset and put challenges and things that we might not want to experience into perspective and be able to use those as stepping stones, not stumbling blocks.
Yeah, absolutely. I I continued my personal development journey and really again continuing to journal, and I do that now, but I can tell you that for me on the times that I am not treating myself kindly, it really does affect my relationships and it affects how I'm showing up in the world. Because we really are pouring from an empty cup. So for me, that has become such an important part. And by the way, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, she's perfect, she does this every day, I don't. And it's something that I have to remind myself. But what are some things that are crucial when it comes to then reprogramming what we say to ourselves?
Sure. So I'm going to actually start with something I'm sure a lot of your listeners understand, but I cannot say enough about this, not just because of the research, but also what's said in philosophy, also what's said in scripture, also
Mhm.
energy around this. And that is the practice of gratitude. And
Mm,
very specific, right? About saying,
yeah.
I am those are powerful words.
So
I am
good.
thankful for. So I won't go through all the research, of course, but we know that when we do that, it shifts what is happening in our brain. It shifts our
Oh.
the way that we show up. It shifts how we
Hmm.
feel, right? There's an energy that changes. So saying I am thankful and really meaning slowing down, looking at what you're thankful for, and
Hmm.
then also saying that to a person, right?
Yeah.
Thankful for you, Julie, because dot dot dot.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
also has significant importance
Hmm.
in the area of research when we're telling others that we're thankful for them. I mean, there's so many different strategies, but I
Yeah.
think that is one of the most powerful strategies that we can use.
I'm so glad you talked about that. And by the way, very apropos, and I didn't realize that I was doing that when I got dressed this morning, but I am wearing. So we had a guest, Dr. Peggy Long, and she has the gratitude bracelets
Love that.
that, and she started a gratitude practice while her fiance was in a hospital, terminally ill, and she was looking at her cup of coffee, hazelnut cup of coffee, and she looked at it and it was late at night, and she decided to feel very, very grateful for that cup of coffee.
Mhm.
And although she was in the middle of horrendous circumstances, losing someone she loved, and she was 18, 19, very young, she began to practice gratitude, and it was something that really created such an impact with her that now, as a psychiatrist, this is or psychologist rather, this is something that she really feels incredibly committed to. And I'm so glad that you talk about that because I am grateful for. We take for granted so many different things that are in front of us, and that we they're mundane, but if we start to notice the little things, it creates such a state of being able to see the big things as well.
Right. And it closes that gap that sometimes we
Mhm.
look at, right? Dr. Ben Hardy talks about this in a
Yep.
couple of books. gap versus gain, and
I
especially as
love
entrepreneurs.
that book. It's
Yeah,
back there
yeah,
behind me right now.
I'm sure it is. Of people who are seeking to do better, it is sometimes really easy to say, "But I have this to do, and I have this to do, and
Mhm.
why hasn't this happened?" Instead of actually looking at what has happened and truly being
Yeah.
grateful for those things that have happened, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
It
absolutely.
allows our mind then to be in a place where we can move forward with greater energy, enthusiasm, and also, to me, the right frame of mind in seeking to help and bless others as we try to do more and show up better in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things too, and I love what you're talking about, the gap and the gain in that book. My other favorite book that I started my year with is The Power of the Future Self. I don't know if I'm even naming the book correctly, but that's one of the practices now and that I've challenged not only myself but also the individuals who are part of my mastermind right now to come to our desk or a place where we're going to work for the day and really get into the energy of who we're going to become by embodying the gratefulness, embodying the person that has that energy that is going to be giving and putting out whatever it is into the world, and it's part of who we are, right? If I have a gift, and that gift may be teaching someone, then really embody the teacher that is coming with the intention of helping others with what you're teaching. And at times we just take that for granted. If I'm going to be the teacher that has impacted the lives of 100 people in a year, then today, when I come to my desk, I am that teacher today, and I want to embody that because sometimes we take for granted our opportunities that we have on a daily basis.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's right.
Yeah.
We do need to show up with that right mindset so we are able to see the people around us that need our service and our help, and we're
Mhm.
able to see how we can contribute. And the challenges will always be there. I wish they wouldn't sometimes, but they will be. So it's what am I focusing on? In fact, I was out on an early morning walk and I had that thought. I'm like, all right, yes, you have these things that are a little bit challenging for you right now, but where is your focus? That focus
Yeah.
needs to be on what we're grateful
Yeah.
for, on the good, even focusing on being cheerful. I was thinking about that as well as, Brendan Burchard talks about bring the joy. And I love
Yeah.
that. Right? Like
Yeah.
bring the
Yeah.
joy, bring the cheer, no matter what. And you're going to find that things will simply work better for you because, again, everything
Oh.
is processing up here, that energy, but
Yep.
stuff happening in your brain is then transitioning to what happens in your life.
Yeah, everything begins really with our mind. And sometimes we don't realize that the results that we have are really because of where our thoughts may be hanging out. If our thoughts are in the gutter, if our thoughts are always thinking that I will never do, or I can't do that, or I won't, or oh, this always happens to me, and people, whatever, right? Whatever you choose to say and believe, then that's going to create in you that feeling that then will result in your actions that will get you the results in your life. And that was a big revelation for me because I thought, I remember having this is another coach that I worked with in early on, and she said, she didn't hurt your feelings, and I'm like, well, she was mean. Look at what she said. She's like, she didn't hurt your feelings. You're thinking you're giving it power, what she said. But if you really believe that you are loved, if I'm looking at your shirt, if you really look at, I'm divine, I'm worthy, it doesn't matter what somebody else says,
That's right.
right? And that's the place where many individuals, and again, all of us humans have that negative bias that kind of gets us going. Now, I look at your shirt and I look at those words, and I know that if I'm a child of the 80s, 90s, I'm a Gen Xer, so, of course, I remember Saturday Night Live making
Sure.
fun of the skit, like, "I am worthy," right? And then,
Right?
it's like
Yes. I
right, and then it's like it made me like, "Oh my god," when I heard about affirmations, I'm like, that was the first thing that came to mind, and I felt so uncomfortable at a level, right? Like, I know the science, but I don't know if I could do this. So for the people who have never done that, who have never stood in front of the mirror and affirmed themselves or talked to themselves in a way that um, can be truly helpful to them so they can embody this. How do you suggest or what are the things that people can do to
Sure.
begin?
Sure. Well, so There's actually a lot of suggestions, but one thing is like you're looking at Julie, right? We created this IMTs line to be
Mhm.
able to give women that opportunity to look in the mirror. If they don't want to say it out loud at
Yep.
first, okay. But to be able to read, I am worthy, I am beautiful,
Mhm.
I am loved, I am strong, I am divine. You'll notice as you read these words, I can also read them. This is designed
Mhm.
purposely. So you're paying it forward as you
Yeah,
interact.
I
People
love
also
that.
have an opportunity. And so being able, because I've been doing this for a while and because I'm the one who created these clothes, we also have a pajamas with purpose line. And so
Mhm.
often at night, I will place my hand on my heart, or even when I wake up
Yeah.
in the morning and feel those words because they're on the inside of the pajamas. That is a true design,
Mhm.
a choice. They're on the inside of those pajamas. And so I'm feeling the feels as I say those words, right? I am beautiful, I am loved, I am worthy. And that
Mm.
helps me lift my head off the pillow and start my day in a better way.
Yeah.
So as you read those words, as you have that close to your body,
Mhm.
as you repeat that, you're able to start to feel that. And that starts to
Mm.
have an effect on what happens.
Yeah. I love that. And by the way, I think that it's such a brilliant idea that you are not only seeing them, but as someone is reflecting to you, right? Then you're also giving them the opportunity to see that for themselves. And sometimes we are reflecting to ourselves and we're so afraid to look in the mirror, but you're giving us a reason also to be able to remind ourselves, hey, girl in there, I like you. I want to even love you more. And
Yes.
all of that, right? That comes forth from that initial thought, right? If I'm loving myself, maybe I'm going to give myself a break at the end of the day. Or if I'm loving myself, I'm going to set a boundary. Or if I'm loving myself, I'm going to then remind myself why I started my business. And there's so many different things that this can stem from. Now, practically as a business owner, there's some challenges. What have been some of the challenges? Because you are a founder. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's several, so I'm going to be really specific. Certainly, with making a product more than a service that you offer,
Mhm.
there is a lot that goes into production. And so, as I mentioned, production costs actually went up 60% between prototyping and full production because we
That's
were
huge.
right after COVID and just things went wonky. And so, dealing with that and how you're going to price and how you're going to move forward and where the funds come and all of those pieces. That's just part of producing a product. It just happened to be at a really interesting time in our history
Yeah.
of the world and what was happening. So there's one thing. Another piece with product, and I'm sure the same as with services, but then deciding how you're going to get that product in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
How it's a great product. Lots
Mhm.
of people have great products, but how are you actually going to get it out so
Yeah.
the world knows about it? And
Mhm.
yes, there's social media, but that is really hard to try to make
Oh,
that. And so
100%. I just had this
yeah,
conversation with somebody before you, Kimberly, so I'm so glad you're saying that. Because
yeah,
this person, was doing a consult and, it's a guy who works for another, group, and I do work with gentlemen, but I said, "How are you getting this to people?" And he said, "Well, I'm putting it in social media." And I said, "Really? Well, your social media followers are not customers necessarily."
that's right. That's
And he
right.
was blown away by this.
I know. And then how do you draw in when there's, 5 million other people on Instagram or whatever the
Mm,
number is? And so even in the last couple of months, one thing that I thought about because and I know you understand this, Julie, we network a lot, right?
yeah.
In business. We network a lot. And there's always people who I'm so grateful for that are willing to share ideas. Hey, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? I've noticed for probably the last year or so, as I've been listening to those expressions, which I am very grateful for, I have tried some of those things here and here. But I've had so many windows open. I've realized, Kimberly, you have to choose what you are really good at, one or two things, and then become even
Mm,
better at those things to create an audience and create the brand that you want. And so,
yeah.
just in the last few weeks, I've been closing all of those other doors gently, just pushing them to the side and saying, okay, what are your strengths? What are you going
Mm,
to do? And I think for myself, I finally understand what I need to do to move forward in being able to develop the audience that really wants to change who they are, wants to improve their mindset. And clothing is an incredible platform, but it's more than just clothes.
yeah.
We actually just a week and a half ago, introduced an interactive guided journal for teenage girls.
I saw that, the Journal
Yes,
of I
I
Am.
am. That's right. And so that was so fun because I'm like, I want to be able to reach more people than just adult women.
Mhm.
I do want to target teenage girls as well and go
Start
there.
them young, Kimberly.
That's right. It
Yeah,
really is. How can we teach our children to understand how to
yeah.
think and be mindful of their language and then be intentional so they are able not just to get the outcomes they want, but to
Mhm.
create that habit that
Yeah.
will help them through their entire life.
Absolutely. I am always a big proponent, and I have nieces that are girls. My youngest niece is 11, and of course, she's already dealing with the things that we as women deal with, right? Rejection, mean girls, self-doubt, even at that age now. And by the way, she's very gifted. She's the one who's been with a speech pathologist for a while. But yeah, we have to start creating these habits that they can become lifetime habits. And I so honor you for doing that. I think that this is such a beautiful gift that you're giving not only those young women that will have the journal, but their moms, because now, or their aunties, or their people in their life, because it's all about the ripple effect, which leads me to another thing that you do, and that's pajamas with a purpose. Tell me more about that.
Yes, thank you for asking because that's one of the things probably closest to my heart with my company. I always knew that I wanted a philanthropic side with anything that I did. And so with Pajamas with Purpose, we have partnered with Refuge for Women, which is the nation's largest long-term rehabilitation center for women who have been sex trafficked.
Wow.
And we have, you and I have, as well as other customers, have the opportunity to go to that page on the website
Mhm.
and read those women's hopes and dreams. We already know
Mm,
their situation has been horrific,
yeah.
but they still are fighters. They still have dreams. And so you're
Mhm.
able to read those, what they still want to do in this life. And then you have that opportunity to gift a pair of these beautiful pajamas to one of these women
Oh,
and
beautiful.
write a personal note. You type it out within
Mhm.
checkout place.
Mhm.
And on that, with that, you're able to give both the note and those pajamas. Token Clothing fulfills it and deliver it to that recipient.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for creating an impact in the lives of sometimes women that are receiving some help in this instance, but that's a very tangible thing that they can feel nurtured by somebody else, that the world did not forget about them, about what they went through. So
Right.
that's so beautiful.
Thank
It's so many things that you're doing now. I would be remiss if I didn't ask your future self, right? Because you're using that gain to propel you forward. You're not in that gap. You definitely are continuing to do things that not only create an impact in the lives of others, but for you, Kimberly, where's your future self going?
Ah, so many places. I would say beyond, right? I
Mhm.
certainly, with what I want to do, is to grow this company because I want more impact and I want it globally. And the fun thing about words is that we can put it into any foreign language we want,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
Which we do sell our teas in Espanol, which is super fun.
love
But
that.
I love as I find the markets and I'm able to collaborate to actually increase and grow that.
Hmm.
I am a huge proponent of helping women, which obviously you
Hmm.
can tell from this company. But even beyond that, I have a passion and even passion project to not only help women with their language, but also help them perpetuate and
Mm,
magnify their talents in their own communities,
yeah.
specifically when it comes to those things important to women in relation to their families, to principles of freedom, to principles of things that make society
Mm,
touch. And so my long-term goal, I outside of token clothing is really to create a community of women, not
mhm,
just nationwide, but globally who are seeking
mm.
those things in their society and their communities that help nations and communities flourish. And to be able to create
Amazing.
a community that networks and is a sounding board for each other and provides resources and provides true solutions to some of the issues that we see in communities that are not flourishing. But where women want to get involved and become leaders and examples of what can happen.
I love it. As a proponent and someone that volunteers in several different organizations, I love this mission. I love the vision that you have. And I know that you already have done a lot of really great things. You took that concept and brought it to fruition. So I actually, as you're speaking, because this is how my mind works, I immediately started to think, Jessica Santander and also there's a friend of the show, she's been on the show, and if you haven't listened to her show, she started a jewelry company, with her mom, and she's phenomenal, but really a mission driven. It's not just your same old kind of jewelry. And then there is, of course, Ring of Color. And our Melissa from Ring of Color, she started again with that mission to help women feel good and really through the power of what they're wearing, right? Whether it be makeup or whether it be jewelry or clothing to really empower them. So I think you guys need to connect and maybe do something. Maybe we'll have a special episode of Casa de Confidence before Christmas and have you
Oh,
guys on it, and we'll put it out there so that people can have some awareness. So we need to talk offline on that.
that
I think that that would be really fun. Kimberly, you've been incredibly gracious with your time. This has been such a fun time to talk to you. How do people find you? We're going to have your info in the show notes, but if you want to give us the website.
Absolutely. So that website is tokenclothingco.com. Again, tokenclothingco.com. And of course, all of our products are there. Links to social media is on that page. And
Mhm.
I'd love to have you come. And I'll make sure to include in the show notes for podcasts. I always invite people. I leave a link so they can download if they want some free IM printables that are
Ooh,
cute and fun and designed really fun
very fun.
that you
Thank you.
can type in who, right? I am whatever it is, right? I am courageous. I
Mhm.
am brave. I am strong. I am beautiful. Whatever you need, you can
Ooh,
type it in or you can print it off and write it in if you prefer that. And then you post that somewhere where you're going to see that statement every single day.
I love it. I am so grateful for you, and I am going to start to maybe figure something out that we can do between you three ladies because I love your missions. I think that there's a lot of intersection, and I believe that collaboration is the way that we can go further together. I want to encourage the listeners. Here's a great takeaway. If you have a teen girl in your life, I encourage you, and even if you're maybe a teen at heart, maybe you want to start off with a journal or wear the t-shirt. Wear it so that, again, you are wearing something with a purpose, that it's powerful, a reminder to yourself that you are so many different things that we take for granted, right? We are beautiful, we are becoming, we are worthy, all of these things. And again, maybe you're the cozy kind of girl. If you're in New England or like me or anywhere else that it's cold, maybe those pajamas are going to be. And by the way, I love pajamas because you have to have the nice soft things. And I can see that you've invested a lot of time into picking the right kind of materials so that it's a
Uh,
cozy, cozy PJ. So go and get some affirmations and wear clothing with a purpose, not only that is making a difference for you in the language that you speak to yourself, but also that is making a difference in the lives of others who can use the continued affirmation and support from all of us, because we're in it together, my friends. And Kimberly, until next time, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Casa de Confidence podcast with Julie DeLucca-Collins. Remember to check her out on Instagram and Facebook, and always click subscribe to catch every new episode. Remember, leave a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And as always, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.